My name is Guillaume Cote from Arc System Works, and I'm the creative director for Double Dragon Revive.
How did the team decide on this visual style for the game? Because this is one of only a handful of times that Double Dragon has gone into the 2.5D realm. So where did you start when you wanted to create the visual identity of what Double Dragon Revive would be?
First, if you're talking about the choosing 3D as a graphical style, it all comes from the gameplay concept that we had in mind, because in this game, Double Dragon Revive, we are going to have a lot of interaction with the environment, and which stems from the history of the series that had all along the years that came up from very early titles already using this kind of interactions with the environment, using verticality and stuff like this in order to beat enemies. So we tried to push this as far as we could. As you can see during the demo, we have, of course, our heroes being able to grab poles and things like this in order to move, but so interacting with objects, but also pushing enemies into gimmicks and other things like this. So this was something that we really took time at the beginning of the development to think about, and at the end we really chose 3D because it made more sense in a lot of aspects, going with this very special, let's say, gameplay style. And also another point is that we wanted to have also a certain degree of diagonal action as well, which is way more easy to achieve with 3D when you're going with a side view. Camera angle.
Those environmental interactions were a very interesting part of the demo as we played through. As I was going through the levels, I saw whenever I would see that sort of outline on something in the background, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to push someone into that and see what happens. And how fun was it to create those sort of interactions in each stage as you went along?
It was a lot of fun because we really wanted to incentivize also the player using this as much as we could. So we tried to come up with as many, let's say, not categories, but many type of gimmicks like this all along the stage. And actually, when using that, not only you can, let's say, dispatch enemies very easily, but also you gain a lot of super gauge that allows you to unleash the super moves of the characters as well.
A lot of the combo abilities bounce enemies off of the walls, and then you can continue the combo with more hits, or you can go for an aerial throw, or you can go for jumping off the wall and going for a ground pound. How did you decide what kind of offense you wanted the characters to have, or at least Billy and Jimmy to have when starting out this game?
Traditionally, Billy and Jimmy mostly always had the same movesets for both of them, but in this game we tried to differentiate them in a way that Billy is more of a balanced kind character, and Jimmy is a more, let's say, power type. So it will be a little bit, let's say, slower than Jimmy, but with more powerful attacks and a little bit of armor on certain hits. But as for the kind of bounces and also juggling, as you mentioned, it also stemmed from the concept that we had for the fighting style, the hands-to-hands fighting style of the game, is that we wanted to make a hybrid between traditional beat 'em up, but also including some of our, let's say, versus fighting DNA into it. So this is why I think you saw it when you saw the command panel of the game, all the moves that the character can do. There's a lot. There's a lot of options, and this is exactly what we wanted to give, a lot of options to the player to, let's say, interact with certain situations.
With such a shift in the sort of visual style of this, this is a very, very different kind of Double Dragon game than players are maybe used to seeing. How have you responded to feedback to the game so far, and is it something that you incorporate, or are you kind of following your North Star and sticking to what you believe the game ought to be?
By the way, by visual side, do you mean the 3D graphics, or do you mean the character design and stuff like that?
The visuals and gameplay.
The visuals and gameplay. Yeah, this is something. Yeah, we really took a lot of time to decide in the first place. Putting a lot of effects that wasn't really there in past entries of the series, for example, because we tried that at first as well. But since we had the game in 3D, it didn't really render that well. So we really tried to adjust along the way to have the best shape as possible as we could. But also, we also, of course, take a lot of feedback from every time we show the build to different events. Like we showed it last month in Gamescom as well. And this time in TGS we have an updated build with some new features. I don't know if you noticed the attack in which you kind of grab and pound the enemy against the wall. This is new. This is new from this build on. So we're trying to improve also things on gameplay, but also on visuals both, which every iteration we do of the build.
Double Dragon is a game that's just is a franchise that's just chock full of characters. You got, of course, Billy and Jimmy, who have to be there, but a lot of the Double Dragon games have kind of explored making some of those other characters playable. And I'm curious, is that also going to be the case with Double Dragon Revive?
There will be more playable characters to the game, which we will announce down in the following months. But yeah, there would be other playable characters than Billy and Jimmy. So.
And as one of the leads here, that's kind of taking on a franchise with such vast legacy as Double Dragon, what do you want both newcomers and longtime fans to see like the most out of your take on Double Dragon?
It's a very difficult question because we really want to be respectful and also to kind of build on the legacy of the past games. So of course, as fans of the past games ourselves, we want to make games that will appeal to these players. But also we want to kind of broaden the scope of what Double Dragon Revive, Double Dragon in general, for what it is, can reach. Because actually we, a few years ago, we developed a title called Double Dragon 4. Which was developed with actual OG members of the OG titles in it. And it was kind of a very super faithful to the core, let's say new game, but taking really the same mechanics as the old one, even down to the kind of the sprite work. And but the reaction, let's say the reception to it was pretty, let's say, mitigated. So we had part of the old fans that really liked to have the exact same experience that they had when playing the old games in the 80s, 90s. But also we had part of even the old fans that were kind of left a little bit disappointed that we didn't really bring anything new with it. So this is something that we really took a long time thinking of in what kind of way we could both keep what makes Double Dragon, but also freshen it up and bringing it to a widest audience while satisfying the old fans. So this is kind of walking on a tightrope, what we're doing here.
Where can players and fans find out more about the game? Where can they follow along and see what's new about what's happening with it?
So we have a website that kind of gathers all the information we publicly transmit about the game. But I would say mostly during events like this, and also we will be present also at the Paris Games Week next month, and we will have new updates. So it would be new information coming at each of these events, on which our website for Double Dragon Revive, of which also, of course, will link to.